My name is Rinder de Groot and I work with various youth projects, usually in the Netherlands but sometimes internationally. And I do this with a company called KBMI.
Hi, I'm Steve Lawson and I'm from the UK. And in this context, I'm a social media practitioner and educator.
A tool that I sometimes use is images. It works very well with young people. They can be still, they can move, or something in between, let's say an animated GIF, things that people really understand. If, for example, you allow young people to express their opinions and ideas and proposals for change using images, you will get them on their own comfort zone, in their own comfort zone pretty easily. We're doing a project now where young people can make their own animation clip. So it's nothing you need really to edit, but it's very simple. You put in a photo, some image, or another image, text, and maybe sound, and then you can do some very simple things by animating it. It can be used to express an opinion, or an idea, or pose a question. And the thing they go to, the process they go through in order to make their little 30-second animation clip really helps in building a skill and at the same time getting something original out of them.
I think you start with whatever the young people are using in your area, because it varies so much around the world. I mean, there are tools that are considered obsolete in the West that are still the most prominently used ones in Brazil or India. You know, a lot depends on where you are, and so in certain countries there are language-specific tools that get used, and I don't know about those because I only speak English. I mean, within England I tend to look to the tools that are being used by the people that they work with. I teach social media in a college, and with my students I discovered that they are particularly comfortable with Tumblr and Twitter. So we started a Tumblr and Twitter because, you know, why create more obstacles for yourself by having to introduce new tools when they're not exploring the potential of the ones that they're using. So I think a user survey is a good first place to start.
The problem with using specific social media channels to help with participation is that they do not always connect to the policy making that is relevant to them. So if you have a closely knit group that works together using social media, it will work. But if you then have to make a connection with, for example, policymakers, local officials, for example, to bring about change in your neighborhood, that will be a lot harder. So as a tool to work together, it's really nice. If combined also with, you know, offline interaction. But if you really want them to participate and also have the decision makers and policy makers participate in this process, you will need a lot of energy.
I think there are two sides to this, because I think that you start by making opportunities available, but actually you measure how effective the opportunities are by looking at participation, because a lot of things we think are presented as opportunities, but actually there are other barriers to people being involved, and sometimes that's just a fear of the unknown, that actually for a lot of people getting involved online, that they assume it's broadcast, and so they get scared because they think there's going to be 10,000 people looking at what they do. And so that kind of training can be really useful, just very practical, hands-on, this is how you use these tools. So the tool set can be a barrier. But also I think it's important to acknowledge people's fears about the privacy concerns of putting any kind of material online, particularly those who are working with youth, because there are legal constraints as well. And so I think that increased awareness and conversation around that, and rather than having people dismissing those concerns, because I think a lot of people who work with social media in business don't realise that when you work with it in a social work situation of any kind, but particularly with young people or vulnerable people, there are some very valid concerns about those kind of things. So I think tackling those head on and creating safe spaces and understanding the privacy limits of particular platforms, but then also trying to create room for your participants to get involved, so that it's not just about teamwork or about workers using these kind of tools, but actually using them as part of your work with young people who are already often living in those kind of digital spaces. So I think there's a multi-pronged approach that's required.
I think practically all young people use social media, but they might use different social media than you or I. Many will be less text-based and more image-based. Instagram is a recent example of what they do. Level 1 is a selfie, so they may make a picture of themselves and their surroundings and be proud of themselves. Level 2 is that they show things that they think are beautiful or important or funny or sexy or whatever. So sometimes the world of social media, the different channels do not interconnect, but then you should, well, look the young people up in their realms and you, well, will see some pretty amazing stuff.